What comes after politics? How humans cooperate without central control. The introduction. Politics dominates modern thinking in ways few people ever stop to question. When something goes wrong, the instinctive response is to look upward. Who is responsible? What policy failed? Which authority should intervene? What new rule might fix the problem? This reflex is so deeply ingrained that alternatives often feel invisible, even when they are already working. This book begins from a simple observation. Most of what allows society to function is not political. Food appears on shelves without votes. Skills are learned without permission. Norms guide behavior without enforcement. Cooperation happens quietly, continuously, and largely outside the structures we are taught to credit. Politics did not create these systems. It attached itself to them. Over time, that attachment reshaped how people think about order, responsibility, and coordination. Political solutions came to feel inevitable, even as their results grew more fragile and less responsive. The problem is not bad intentions or corrupt actors, it is structural. Centralized authority struggles to process the information required to manage complex human cooperation. This book does not argue for a new ideology or policy platform. It does not offer a governing blueprint. It does not attempt to replace one set of rulers with another. Instead, it asks a quieter question. What happens when people are allowed to coordinate without central control? Answering that question requires stepping back from political language and examining how cooperation actually works, how information moves, how incentives shape behavior, how norms form, how trust is built and lost, how systems adapt when failure is allowed to remain local rather than systemic. The chapters that follow are intentionally high level. They focus on patterns rather than prescriptions, mechanisms rather than mandates. They describe processes that already exist, often unnoticed, and explores what happens when those processes are allowed to operate with fewer interruptions. The first part of the book briefly examines why political solutions repeatedly fail to deliver what they promise, not because people are incapable or malicious, but because centralized systems struggle with scale, feedback, and adaptation. The larger part of the book looks forward. It explores how voluntary systems coordinate behavior, resolve conflict, and sustain order, how markets function as discovery processes, how law predates legislation, how trust, reputation, and social norms do work that force cannot, how change occurs through exit and parallel systems rather than upheaval. This is not a vision of perfection. Voluntary systems fail. People make mistakes. Conflict does not disappear. The difference is how errors are handled, whether they are corrected quickly or protected indefinitely, whether responsibility remains personal or is displaced upward. What comes after politics is not a finished design waiting to be implemented. It is a direction. Once you see how much of society already functions without political management, it becomes difficult to believe that politics is the foundation holding everything together. What follows is an attempt to make that structure visible.